He thought it was a joke. The judge actually laughed right there in the middle of the courtroom, as if the woman standing in front of him was just another politician out of her depth. That laugh, that smug little smirk, that's where the arrogance began. But what he didn't know was that the silence that followed would become the most uncomfortable silence of his career. This isn't one of those moments where someone got lucky in a debate. No, this was methodical, calculated, and cold. She came in ready, he came in cocky, and that's how the tables turned. Look at the way he leans back, that dismissive laugh, like he's grading her instead of listening. You can almost feel the condescension dripping off every grin. The man thinks he's untouchable. But in that split second, you can see the overconfidence, the kind that blinds you right before the fall. Because what's about to happen next isn't just a clapback, it's a masterclass. Now imagine sitting there, cameras rolling, every reporter ready to write their headline. He laughs, the crowd shifts uncomfortably, and you can hear that little whisper. Did he just laugh at her? That's the kind of sound that hangs heavy in a courtroom. Because when a judge forgets the weight of that bench and lets his ego do the talking, he opens the door for someone like Jasmine Crockett to walk right through it. See, Crockett doesn't yell, she doesn't flinch, she watches, she waits. That's her power. Because silence is her setup and facts are her weapon. When he laughs, she doesn't take it personal, she takes it as permission to teach. You can feel the room shift the moment she starts to speak. The confidence in her tone cuts through that laughter like a knife through glass. Calm, precise, unbothered. Every word she says is building to something no one in that room is ready for. You ever watch someone smile right before realizing they just played themselves? That's exactly what's about to happen here. The judge keeps interrupting, thinking he's controlling the pace. But she's letting him talk, letting him dig that hole a little deeper. Because the deeper he goes, the harder the fall. She's not rushing, she's lining up the shot. And when she finally takes it, she won't miss. You can tell he's not used to this kind of energy, not used to someone who won't play the game the way he expects. He's laughing to keep control, but inside, that control is slipping. The confidence starts to fade when he realizes she's not reacting, she's analyzing. Every great takedown has a rhythm. First, the noise, then the pause, then the silence before the storm. And right now, we're standing in that silence. She lets him finish his last chuckle, waits half a second, looks him dead in the eye, and then she starts to talk. But what she says, that's where the magic happens. Because when she opens that folder and pulls out his own record, that's the moment the laughter dies. You can almost hear the heartbeat echoing through the speakers. The camera zooms in on his face, the smirk fading, the eyes shifting. He's realizing this isn't a debate anymore. This is a mirror, and he's being forced to look into it. She starts reading, calmly, word for word, his words, his decisions, his contradictions. Every fact she lays down lands like a gavel. The audience starts to lean in, not because she's yelling, but because she doesn't have to. That's how truth sounds when it's undeniable. Now the judge isn't laughing. He's blinking more, jaw tight, fingers tapping on the bench. You can feel that discomfort. The silence that once belonged to her now belongs to him. That's what we call poetic justice. And right when the viewers at home think it's over, she drops one last line. Not aggressive, not loud, just enough to sting. The kind of line that hits harder because she says it so softly. You ever see someone realize they just lost the room? That's what you're seeing now. The camera pans across the courtroom, reporters frozen, attorneys whispering, audience stunned. Nobody moves. The only sound left is the echo of her voice. The arrogance that started this moment has now turned into regret. That's the full circle moment every courtroom watcher lives for. And yet, this was only the beginning. Because when she walked out of that courtroom, that silence followed. It followed him, the media, and everyone who thought they could laugh their way through accountability. He laughed at her, but when she exposed his own record, the laugh stopped cold. Now, the only thing left in that room was the truth. Before we talk about what she did, you need to understand who he is. Because this man, he's not just another name on a courtroom plaque. He's the kind of judge who's been sitting high on that bench for so long, he forgot what it feels like to be challenged. In his world, his word is gospel. He's the guy who'll lean back in his chair, smirk, and say, "Counselor, watch your tone." Not because you're wrong, but because he's not used to being talked to like an equal. That's Judge Alsop, and for years, people let him get away with it. He built a reputation. Brilliant mind, sharp tongue, short temper. The kind of man who loves the sound of his own rulings. To the public, he's old school. To those who've been in his courtroom, he's something else. A test of patience, pride, and restraint. Especially if you're young. Especially if you're a woman. Because behind the robe, behind that calm judicial tone, is a man who doesn't like being questioned. Especially not by someone who refuses to play small. And that's where Jasmine Crockett walks in. She didn't show up to be intimidated. She didn't care about titles or the tone of his voice. She was there for one thing: accountability. You can see it from the start. She's focused, grounded, steady. While he's trying to set the stage, trying to make her react. It's subtle, but it's the same move he's pulled for years. Ask anyone who's ever gone toe-to-toe with him, they'll tell you. He tests your confidence before he tests your case. That's his power move. He tries to shake you before you even speak. But Jasmine, she wasn't playing that game. She knew exactly who she was dealing with. She'd done her homework. She'd seen the old transcripts, heard the rumors, read the lines where his patience snapped at the wrong people. She walked in knowing she wasn't just debating a man, she was confronting a legacy. Now, here's the thing about Judge Alsop. When he feels cornered, he hides behind that calm judicial language. You know the type. The kind of guy who'll dismiss a sharp point by saying, "Counselor, that's irrelevant." It's not irrelevant, it's inconvenient. That's the word he really means. For years, his courtroom was a one-way street. He spoke, everyone else listened. That laugh you heard earlier, that wasn't about humor. That was about hierarchy. He was reminding everyone who ran the show. But this time, the show didn't go according to script. Because Jasmine didn't raise her voice. She didn't argue. She just started asking the right questions. The kind of questions that pull at the threads of control. The kind that sound harmless at first, until they start revealing everything you tried to hide. Now the tension's building. You can hear it in the background, that quiet hum, that low courtroom music under the narrator's breath. It's not drama for the camera, it's real. The balance of power is shifting, and everyone in that room can feel it. She's not debating anymore, she's dismantling, piece by piece. Every polite smile, every soft "Your Honor" is another strike, another crack in the armor of authority. And you can tell by the way he starts interrupting that he feels it. That laugh from earlier? Gone. Replaced by short sighs, longer pauses, the kind of silence that says, "Wait, how did I lose control of this room?" You see, when power gets too comfortable, it forgets that accountability exists. That's what Jasmine represents, the reminder that respect isn't automatic, it's earned. She's not just speaking for herself, she's speaking for everyone who ever got laughed at, dismissed, or talked down to by someone hiding behind a title. And that's what makes this moment bigger than a courtroom. It's a shift, the kind you don't notice right away, but once it happens, you can't unsee it. Because what she's doing here isn't just exposing a man's bias. She's exposing the system that lets that bias live so comfortably. Every word she says, every document she holds up, is like pulling the curtain back on something that's been hidden in plain sight. And now the audience, the people watching at home, they're not just entertained, they're invested. They're feeling that tension crawl up their spine. They want to see what she's going to reveal next. They want to see him squirm. Because deep down, we've all seen that same arrogance somewhere, at work, in politics, in life. That smug face that says, "I know better than you." And watching it crumble, that's the kind of satisfaction you can't script. Jasmine doesn't gloat. She doesn't rub it in. She lets the silence speak for her. Because when the truth starts doing the talking, you don't need to shout. You just let the facts echo. The courtroom that once belonged to him now belongs to her. The same room that laughed is now holding its breath. Every reporter, every lawyer, every spectator, waiting to see how far she'll go. But here's the part nobody saw coming. Jasmine wasn't there to win an argument. She was there to expose something that went way deeper. Something that had been buried for years, hiding beneath polished language and courtroom decor. And when she starts peeling back that layer, that's when this story stops being about a judge and a lawyer. It becomes about power, truth, and the moment a single voice cracked through decades of silence. He thought he was safe behind that bench. He thought that laugh was control. But she's about to show him, and everyone watching, that control built on arrogance always collapses on truth. And what comes next is the moment that silence turns into shock. The second she started speaking, the whole damn room changed. You could feel it. The tension, the stillness, that quiet kind of power that doesn't need a mic drop because the words themselves hit harder than any shout ever could. Up until that second, he'd been running the show, laughing, interrupting, throwing those little digs that judges use to remind you who's in charge. But Jasmine, she didn't blink, not once. Her hands were steady, her tone, calm, controlled. You could tell she'd been here before. Not in that courtroom maybe, but in that exact moment. The one where someone tries to belittle you only to realize too late they just picked a fight with the wrong one. Now, let's get this straight. She didn't start throwing punches. She didn't need to. The power move was silence. Every time he cut her off, she just waited. No eye rolls, no raised voice, just patience. The kind of patience that feels dangerous, because in those pauses, you could feel the weight of what was coming next. She wasn't reacting, she was calculating. The camera catches it perfectly. His smirk fades just a bit. His tone stiffens. You can hear that edge in his voice, the one that says, "I'm losing control, but I can't show it." And that's when she speaks again, steady, precise. The courtroom goes from noise to complete silence, because suddenly everyone realizes she's not defending herself, she's dismantling him. And this is where her brilliance shows. Every line she drops is loaded, but never emotional. It's all fact, cold, clean, impossible to dodge truth. That's not anger, that's strategy. She says, "Your Honor, with respect, you might want to revisit your own record before questioning mine." And boom, you can almost hear the air leave the room, because everyone in there knows exactly what she's referring to. The one case, the one decision he's been quietly haunted by for years. The one nobody brings up because it exposes more than just bad judgment. It exposes bias. You see him shift in his chair, adjust his robe, look down at his notes, anything to avoid the camera. That laugh from earlier? Gone. Dead silent. And here's where Jasmine turns the courtroom into a masterclass. She doesn't rush, she doesn't ride the moment for applause, she lets it breathe. That's the difference between a politician and a pro. She's not playing for claps, she's teaching a lesson. You don't have to shout when the truth is loud enough. Every second of her delivery is deliberate, the slow pacing, the slight tilt of her head, even the way she looks at him. Not angry, not smug, just disappointed, like a teacher watching a student who should have known better. The courtroom's energy shifts completely. Reporters stop typing, lawyers stop whispering, even the bailiff's trying to keep a straight face. because it's clear now this isn't a routine hearing anymore. It's a reckoning. And the way she handles it, that's pure control. She's not chasing emotion, she's driving it. You can see it on the judge's face. Every word she says lands like a slow burn. He wants to interrupt again, but he can't, not without looking petty. She's boxed him in, and she did it all with composure. Then, mid-sentence, she pauses, just for a breath. The kind of pause that makes the entire courtroom lean forward, waiting to see where she's going next. That's not hesitation, that's performance. Every great speaker, every great debater knows the value of silence. The pause isn't empty, it's pressure. And then she says it, the one line that flips the entire courtroom upside down. No shouting, no dramatic gesture, just 7 words, clear as glass. Your own record contradicts your ruling, sir. You could have heard a pin drop. For a split second, even the court stenographer froze. Because that wasn't just a clapback, that was exposure. She didn't accuse him of bias, she proved it. With his own words, his own ruling, his own history. That's when you see it, that flicker of realization in his eyes. The same man who laughed at her not 10 minutes ago now can't even meet her gaze. It's the kind of silence that doesn't come from fear. It comes from truth finally landing. And Jasmine, she doesn't celebrate. She just lets it sit there. Because she knows she doesn't have to say another word. The damage is done. This is where the FOMO kicks in for everyone watching at home. Because you can't look away. You're waiting to see what he does next. Does he try to recover? Does he admit it? Does he double down? It's like watching a storm hit in slow motion. You know it's about to get worse, but you can't stop watching. That's the beauty of her composure. She doesn't just win, she makes him undo himself. Every second he stays silent, every twitch of frustration, every fake smile, it all tells the same story. She took his authority, flipped it, and made him answer to it. By the time she finishes, the room isn't just quiet, it's transformed. The same space that echoed with laughter is now holding its breath. Everyone's thinking the same thing, but no one dares say it out loud. Did that really just happen? And that's when it hits you. This wasn't luck. This was planned. She walked into that courtroom knowing exactly what she was going to say, exactly how to say it, and exactly how to make him regret underestimating her. The clip's going viral for a reason, because it's not just a courtroom moment, it's poetic justice. Watching arrogance collapse under grace, watching power fold under truth, that's something people don't forget. But here's the thing, she's not done yet. Because what happens next doesn't just silence him, it changes how everyone sees him. The exposure you just saw, that was only the surface. The real shock comes in what she reveals after. And when she does, even his allies can't defend him anymore. That's next, and trust me, you'll want to see it. Because that's when the silence turns into chaos.
This is the part that made jaws drop. The kind of moment that doesn't just shift a courtroom, it echoes across headlines. You ever seen someone so sure of their power, so confident in their authority, suddenly realize they just walked straight into their own trap? That's exactly what happened right here. And the crazy part, he didn't even see it coming. Up until this point, the tension had been building like a slow burn. Jasmine Crockett was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that tells you she's holding something back. You could feel it in the air, that quiet before the storm. Every eye in the room locked on her, every camera pointed, every breath waiting for what came next. Because everyone could sense it, she wasn't done, not even close. She looks down at her folder, takes a slow breath, and says, "Let's go back to the record, Your Honor." That's it. Simple, neutral. But the moment she said those words, the courtroom went from curious to silent. Because those who know, they knew. When a lawyer says, "Let's go back to the record," it means somebody's about to get buried under their own words. She flips a page. The sound of that single page turning feels louder than the gavel itself. And then she reads it, word for word, his words from his own previous ruling. The exact statement he made years ago, the one that completely contradicts everything he just said minutes earlier. And right there, time stops. The audio cuts, the visuals slow down. You can see the flicker in his eyes, that instant recognition that he's been caught. The room doesn't move. No one breathes. And then you hear it, the faintest heartbeat sound under the narration, like the world itself is holding still. That pause, that's not confusion, the narrator says, voice low, deliberate. That's realization. Because what she just did wasn't a guess, it wasn't luck, it was precision. She took his own record, the very ruling he once used to shut someone else down, and turned it into a mirror. A mirror so clear he couldn't deny what was staring back at him. You can almost see the calculation in his head, the defense mechanisms kicking in, the flicker of the eyes, the shift in posture. He's thinking, how do I spin this? How do I recover from this? But it's too late. The damage is already done. Jasmine doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't gloat. She lets the silence crush him. That's what real control looks like. Not shouting someone down, but making them realize they've undone themselves. Then she adds, softly, I believe these were your exact words, correct? And there it is, that look. The one that tells you he knows there's no way out. He can't deny it. He can't deflect it. Because it's his own signature sitting on that ruling. The same man who laughed at her is now staring down the weight of his own hypocrisy. You can feel the audience shift. Lawyers glance at each other. A few eyebrows raise. Even the court reporter hesitates for half a second, her fingers frozen above the keys. The silence stretches, long, uncomfortable, heavy, because everyone knows what just happened. That's not just a rebuttal. That's exposure. That's a public unmasking in real time. And she knows it too. That's why she doesn't speak for a full 10 seconds. She lets the moment breathe, lets the realization sink in, lets the arrogance in the room dissolve into disbelief. The camera zooms in, slow, deliberate. His hand moves toward his gavel like he's about to say something. But then he doesn't. He can't, because there's nothing left to say that doesn't make him look worse. You see, when truth hits that hard, even power loses its voice. The narration continues. For years, he used his position to talk over people, to assert control, to act untouchable. But in that one moment, Jasmine didn't just challenge his authority. She dismantled it. With evidence he wrote himself. It's poetic justice, and everyone watching knows it. The arrogance that once filled that courtroom is now replaced by something else entirely. Humility, shock, disbelief. Even those who sided with him look uneasy, as if realizing they'd been defending a lie they didn't fully see. And Jasmine? She's not celebrating. She's not even smiling. Her expression says everything. This isn't about humiliation. This is about truth. She glances back at her notes, as if to say, we can continue. But the energy in the room is different now. He knows he's been exposed. Everyone knows it. And the power he had when he laughed? Gone. Stripped away. The replays hit the internet within hours. That one clip, her reading his own words back to him, spreads like wildfire. Millions of views, thousands of comments, people saying, she ended him with his own record. It's the kind of clip that doesn't need editing, doesn't need commentary. The truth sells itself. But here's the kicker. While everyone online is celebrating that takedown, what happens next inside that courtroom is even more unbelievable. Because when he finally tries to respond, when he tries to defend what can't be defended, that's when it happens. The moment that turns exposure into collapse. The one reaction that seals his fate and proves Jasmine didn't just win an argument, she flipped the entire room against him. And that part, that's coming next.
Every camera stopped moving. Every reporter stopped typing. The room just froze. You could feel it. The air went heavy, like the whole building was holding its breath. The echo of her last words still hanging there, replaying in everyone's mind. No one dared to move. No one dared to speak. Because what just happened wasn't normal courtroom drama. It was the sound of truth landing, hard, undeniable, and way too real to ignore. For a full 5 seconds, it's pure silence. No gavel, no objections, just tension thick enough to cut with a knife. The kind of silence that doesn't just fill the room, it defines it. You can almost hear the hum of the lights above, the soft shuffle of someone shifting in their seat, the faint beat of your own heart trying to keep up. The camera catches it from 3 angles. Her face, calm and steady, his face, drained of color, and the crowd, stunned, eyes wide, mouths half open, but speechless. This isn't a movie moment. This is real. A woman standing in front of power and making power answer to its own words. That's when it hits you. This isn't just about one ruling or one exchange. It's about something bigger. The arrogance that laughed at her 20 minutes ago is gone. What's left now is silence. A silence that screams louder than any outburst ever could. The narration cuts in, soft but sharp. No shouting, no chaos, just one woman and one truth too loud to deny. You see, silence in a courtroom usually means control. It means authority. But not this time. This silence didn't belong to the judge. It belonged to her. She earned it. She commanded it. Every eye in that room was fixed on Jasmine Crockett, not because she demanded attention, but because she took it without asking. Her eyes don't flinch. No smile, no victory pose. Just focus. She doesn't look like someone who won. She looks like someone who just proved what needed to be proven. Calm, centered, unshaken. Cut to a close-up. The judge's hands fidget slightly. He taps his pen, glances down, and exhales. That's the body language of a man who realizes the balance just shifted and not in his favor. The camera zooms out slowly, the entire courtroom in frame. You can see the ripple effect. Reporters glancing at each other. One whisper slips. Did she just quote his own ruling? Another whispers back. She did. But even those murmurs fade out because nobody wants to be the first to break the silence that powerful. And that's what makes it beautiful. It's not chaos, not yelling, not drama. It's control through calm. It's truth doing what truth does best, making noise without making sound. The heartbeat, SFX, fades in under the narration, slow and steady. It's the rhythm of realization. Everyone's processing what they just witnessed. This wasn't luck. This wasn't a slip-up. It was deliberate, planned, precise. Jasmine's expression doesn't change, but her silence says it all. I don't need to shout. I just need you to listen. Even the bailiff is looking nervous. The judge's clerk avoids eye contact. It's as if everyone suddenly remembered. Titles don't make you untouchable. Accountability still exists, and she just proved it in front of the world. Then, out of nowhere, the judge clears his throat, trying to regain control. But it's too late. The authority in his voice doesn't sound the same anymore. It's shaky, uncertain, defensive. The kind of tone that says, I need to move on before anyone notices how rattled I am. But everyone already noticed. The narration continues. Sometimes justice doesn't come from the verdict. It comes from the silence that follows the truth. And in that silence, the audience feels it too. The shift. The moment when power realizes it's been caught and there's nothing left to say. Cut to slow motion. Jasmine gathering her notes, stacking them neatly, not rushing. The sound of paper sliding against wood echoes louder than any gavel. That's how you end a debate. Not with noise, but with finality. Outside the courtroom, the world's already buzzing. Phones light up. Tweets fly. Did you see that moment? He went silent. She cooked him with his own record. Clips replay on loop. The quote, the look, the silence. It spreads faster than any headline because it's not just a story. It's a moment of justice caught in 4K. But inside that room, still quiet, still frozen in the aftershock, because those who were there know they didn't just witness an argument. They witnessed a shift in power, in respect, in what it means to be right when everyone doubts you. And just when it feels like the silence might finally break, the narrator whispers, and yet, the real impact didn't happen in that room. Because this story, this takedown doesn't end with the silence. It begins there. What happened next went beyond the walls of that courtroom, beyond the cameras, beyond the headlines. The ripple turned into a wave. The next moment, it didn't just shake one man's ego, it shook the system that protected it. And that's where the real reckoning begins.
Man, you ever seen someone walk out of a courtroom so calm it actually hurt the people she just beat? That's what this was. The silence didn't end in that room. It followed him out like a shadow he couldn't shake. Cameras flashing, reporters yelling his name, but the only sound louder than the chaos was the silence still stuck to him. The kind of silence that doesn't fade, it haunts. By the time he hit the hallway, that confident smirk he had going in, gone. He looked like someone who just realized the internet was already 10 steps ahead. The clip had dropped, the look, the pause, the moment he had no words. And by the time he reached the parking lot, it was everywhere. CNN replayed it. MSNBC broke it down frame by frame. Even Fox anchors looked uncomfortable trying to spin it. One analyst said, "You can feel the power dynamic shift right there. She didn't raise her voice, but she raised the standard." Another added, "That's not just a rebuttal, that's history on playback." On social media, it exploded. Hashtags flooding every feed. Hashtag calm storm. Hashtag Crockett silenced him. Hashtag courtroom freeze. People were quoting her line like scripture, memes, edits, side-by-side breakdowns. The internet doesn't miss a beat. And this time, it was unanimous. She didn't just win the exchange, she owned the moment. But here's the twist. While the internet celebrated, the man who tried to lecture her was watching the replay in silence. You could almost imagine him sitting there, realizing it wasn't her tone that beat him. It was her truth. And truth, once it's said that clean, doesn't go away. The narration slows down. When the loudest man in the room gets humbled by quiet truth, that's not just a moment, that's history repeating itself. Cut to reaction clips, supporters calling her the calm storm. One commentator says, "It's not anger, it's composure, and that's what scares them most." Another adds, "She didn't just silence him, she educated him." The music starts to build, not dramatic, but emotional, like the moment right before a sunrise. You can feel the respect in the tone. It's not about victory anymore, it's about message. Because here's the real kicker. The silence wasn't weakness, it was power,
wrapped in grace. She didn't have to flex, didn't have to shout, didn't even have to say his name again. She just let the truth breathe. And it did, loudly. Now journalists are digging deeper, pulling records, fact-checking claims, realizing that the line she dropped in court wasn't just sharp, it was airtight. The evidence backed it. The hypocrisy was exposed. What started as one viral clip turned into a national conversation. People started asking questions they weren't supposed to. And that's where the aftershock hit, because when truth hits that hard, it doesn't stop at headlines. It seeps into public opinion. It changes the narrative. You can't spin your way out of silence, not when everyone's already heard what wasn't said. In one of the viral commentaries, a political strategist said it best. This isn't about winning an argument. It's about redefining what power looks like. Cut back to her, Jasmine Crockett, walking down those courthouse steps. No entourage, no press statement, just quiet confidence. Her heels echo with every step, almost syncing with the music. You can tell she's not chasing cameras. She knows they're already watching. Behind her, reporters yell questions, desperate for a soundbite, but she doesn't flinch, doesn't turn around, just keeps walking. Because when you've already said everything that needed to be said, silence is your mic drop. Online, one tweet goes viral. She didn't destroy him with anger, she dismantled him with elegance. Another reads, "The calmest woman in the room just made the loudest point of the year." Even late-night shows couldn't resist. Monologues called it the silence that slapped harder than words. One host joked, "Man got hit with a quiet storm and didn't even see it coming." But under all the jokes and memes, there's a shift, a realization. For years, people equated volume with strength, but now, America just watched what real power looks like. Composure under fire, truth under pressure, dignity under disrespect. The camera fades back to the courtroom door closing behind her. The noise fades out completely. And the voiceover lands the final line like a verdict. She didn't shout. She didn't scream. She just told the truth. And the room went silent. Then a beat of total silence. No music, no outro, just the sound of air. Empty, but heavy. Because sometimes silence isn't the absence of power. It is the power. And that's what they'll remember. Not the argument, not the outrage, but the moment everything stopped and one woman's truth filled the entire room.